All right, we've moved into 1.2, types of data. So we've talked sort of about, what we want to study, where we want to collect data from, how targeted we want to be with that. But now it's time to dive in and talk about how we begin to start analyzing data. In order to do that, we have to have a way to discern different kinds of data from each other. Here I have a template. This is a vehicle registration form from the state of New York. I couldn't find one for California that was easily downloadable. But this is the sort of form that you would fill out if you wanted to register a car. And these fields here are asking for, in other words, they're collecting data from you. Now, they're voluntary response, so you're responding to this. You could lie, but let's assume that you're not lying. So what kind of data are they collecting from you? There's two different distinctions that we just want to start with. So first, categorical data versus quantitative data. Let's parse what these mean. Let's break down these words. So categorical, category. Categorical data consists of names or labels representing categories or classes. So in terms of this template we have here, for instance, the name of the registrant, so your name, this is a field that's categorical. Why? Well, it's literally asking for your name, right? Categorical. Your address, it's a label. Or, for instance, the name of a co-owner. Names, labels, anything that is just a word. As opposed to quantitative data. Quantitative data involves numbers, right? And these represent numerical measurements. So, for instance, we may be talking about your date of birth. Or your zip code. What else? This may also be the vehicle weight. So these are all measurements, data, that are taken in terms of numbers. And these have magnitudes that can be placed in a meaningful order, usually. Categorical, I want to clarify, can also be called qualitative, which is helpful in terms of, now you can think about this binary between quantitative and qualitative data. And almost all the data that we talk about in this class can be sorted in terms of these two categories, right? So you either have categorical data or quantitative data. So once you think about that, now for quantitative data, there are two subtypes. You have discrete data or continuous data. If you've taken a math class before that has talked about these terms, they are usually, for instance, if you take a calculus class or a computer science class, you may know these terms already. And the idea is discrete data is anything that can be counted. So, for instance, the number of people in a household or the number of vehicles you own, right? You can kind of circle and represent that data in terms of circles, dots, numbers, like integers, right? You can count them. As opposed to continuous data, which is on a spectrum. It's on an interval, right? Here's a good example. Vehicle weight, right? So your vehicle, your car may weigh anywhere from 0 pounds to 2,000 pounds, and any form of precision between that. So maybe it's actually 215.2 pounds. And so when you have that arbitrary amount of distinction where you can't think of, oh, well, let me just count all the possible weights that my car can have, then you're talking about continuous data. A good way to think about this, and let me organize this a little bit, is you have your categorical data and your quantitative data. So that's one way that we can split data. And then for quantitative, we split it further into discrete and continuous. For discrete and continuous, discrete is basically asking how many. Any how many question is asking you for discrete data. Any how much question is asking for continuous data.